Alright, what's up everybody? Now welcome to my next episode of my Drumming 101 series. In this episode, we're going to be talking about music theory part 2, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, that means you haven't watched my last video. So if you guys want to watch the series from the beginning, go ahead and click right here. That also might mean that you're not subscribed, so if you're new to this channel, hi, my name is Tlalollin Ramirez, and this is my YouTube channel. I make a bunch of different kinds of videos, a lot of it pertaining to drumming. So if you guys like that kind of content, go ahead and subscribe, and let's get on with the video. Alright, so like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about music theory, and in the last episode we basically just talked about how we understand how rhythms and rests are created by dividing up spaces within time into these compartments to create whatever rhythms and rests that we want. So in this video, we're gonna get a little more in depth and more into the theory behind everything and trying to make up and mix our own rhythms together. With that being said, there's this warm-up that I like to play that helps force me to play each and every single similar rhythms within each other perfectly in time. And the way that this warm-up is structured is by having a certain rhythm being played for 2 counts. In this case, we're gonna write 16th notes. 2 counts of 16th notes. We play this for the first 2 counts. For the next 2 counts, we basically take out a note and play all those notes evenly spaced out. So if we were to take one out, we'll have 7 notes left over within the 2 count spacing and have a total of 7 notes. And basically play 7 notes within 2 counts. You take one more note out and you get triplets, which is 6 notes within 2 counts, and so on and so forth. The next one would be 5-lets, which is 5 notes per 2 counts, and then 8th notes, which is 4 notes for 2 counts, quarter note triplets, quarter notes, and then your infamous half note, which is 1 note for every 2 counts. So basically we're going from 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 8 different notes for 2 counts. And the way this warm-up sounds is like this. And by perfecting that warm-up and playing every single rhythm in perfect time, that helps me being able to identify which one of these rhythms are, even though they're all very, very similar. Alright, so the next thing that I want to talk about that I kind of brushed over briefly in the last video is time signatures. Now, why do we have different time signatures? To simply put it, we use different time signatures to have a different feel for the music that we want to feel. So I sure hope that you guys have listened to many different types of music within your lifetime, and you guys understand that within each genre of music, they have different feels for them. And being able to write that music on paper requires different types of time signatures so that when you read the music, it's much easier to understand. So for example, the one and most common time signature that we see and hear everywhere is obviously going to be the infamous 4/4. Now, like I said last time, that means there's gonna be 4 quarter notes for each measure that's written out. And that's very simple. Like the music that you're hearing right now in the background is in 4/4. If you were to turn on the radio, any single pop song, any single mainstream song is most likely going to be in 4/4. However, 4/4 can be written out in many different ways. For example, if you want to have, instead of 4 quarter notes, if you want 1 whole note instead, if you want 1 whole note per measure, it's literally the same thing, and you can write the time signatures however you want. Like I said, this is music theory, and you can theoretically write out the music however you like in any way that you want it. With the time signature in mind, you have to have a tempo for what your quarter note is gonna be. So typically for 4/4, we usually give the metronome value to the quarter note. So the quarter note can be 120, for example. And 120 beats per minute is what the quarter note is gonna be set at. And you write different music depending on what you want it to be relative to the quarter note or the metronome. So let's say, for example, you have a 4/4 measure and you write out a full bar of triplets. Now in this case, you have to specify that each grouping of 3 eighth notes is going to be formed into evenly spaced notes within the quarter note to have what we call triplets. Now you have to do that by putting the 3 on top of every single groups of 3, and in a triplet based piece of music that you're playing, seeing all these 3s on the sheet of music can be very tiring to your eyes and very repetitive in a way. So we can change up the time signature to be 12/8 and have the same number of triplet eighth notes for the measure. However, in this case, we don't have to put the 3 on the top because there's already enough space filled up within the measure 12 eighth notes, 3, 6, 9, 12, that tying them up together will mess up the value of the measure, and you will have more space at the end to add up more notes. So in this case, you have to group every single 3 notes together in order for you to get 3 evenly spaced notes per quarter note. Whereas in this case, you already have the 12 eighth notes that you need for the bar, and you don't have to group anything together. However though, the quarter note here, what we define as a quarter note here is going to sound and feel very different than what we feel the quarter note at the top. Which is why, if we still want to have the quarter note feel for the bottom part, we have to define the dotted quarter note to be the metronome beat. Basically, this measure right here is all triplet form, which is why you have to put the dotted eighth note for the metronome beat, which means that the metronome beat is going to have a group of 3 eighth notes, which is exactly what we want to have or feel within the music. Now, this goes for any time signature that has an 8 at the bottom, which means that every single groupings of 3 eighth notes is going to be felt in triplet form rather than the standard eighth note feel. All right, great. So now that you guys understand the concept of more complicated rhythms and more complicated time signatures, I want to go over a very commonly uncommon rhythm to help you guys understand and break it down into the most basic form that I can break it down to you guys, and that is a 9-lit. A 9-lit is a total of 9 notes within the space of 2 counts. So if we were to go back to the warm-up that we talked about earlier of having a half note for every 2 counts, and having 2 quarter notes, and then 3 quarter note triplets, etc., etc., the highest one that we went to was a 16th note. Now we can put one more note on top of that and have a 9-lit. So 16th notes have a total of 8 notes within 2 counts, whereas a 9-lit will have 9 notes within 2 counts. And the way it's going to look is like this. Now that's the infamous 9-lit. And a lot of kids who are barely learning to read and play music look at this and they get really freaked out and they get really scared. That was definitely me when I was first learning. And the best way that I can tell you guys to break it down is to break it down in chunks of 3. You have groupings of 3, and then you have a release note, which is a total of 2 counts. So when you think about it, the groupings of 3 within 2 counts is something we already ran over. If you were to go down the list, 16th notes, 7-lits, triplets, 5-lits, all the way down to half notes, one of the things that we went over is having 3 notes for every 2 counts, and that is a quarter note triplet. Is having the quarter note triplet. So what this basically means, the bottom part is having 3 notes over the space of 2 counts and releasing. So the accents that the top one have and the accents of the bottom are exactly the same. So you take the quarter note triplet feel or the quarter note triplet division within the 2 counts and you just put 3 notes within that. Now personally, when I was younger, the way that I would divide up different spacings is by either adding diddles or patadas. So you take the accent of one and you keep that accent going on one hand and you fill up the other 2 space or the other 3 spaces, because we're dividing them by 3, with my left hand and play patadas. And if you want a little more breakdown, if you were to have the quarter note triplet and you were to double it up, you would have something slower than a 9-lit but faster than a quarter note triplet, and you would have 8th note triplets, which is just regular triplets. If you were to have your quarter note triplet basis and double it up, you would literally have just 8th note triplets. Now, the reason it looks so different is because the accent on these, once again, is a quarter note triplet. So you have to put an accent for every single other triplet since we're doubling it up. And that's why it sounds like this. So you take your quarter note triplet, you play 3 notes evenly spaced out within 2 counts. If you double it up, you get regular 8th note triplets. But if you divide it up into 3s and play 3 notes for every quarter note triplet, you would have your infamous 9-lit. Now that's the approach that I like to go into whenever I see 9-lits in music. Typically speaking, for newer levels of music, The composer likes to write some kind of quarter note triplet feel before they put the 9-lits, so that when you play the 9-lits, you already have that same feel, and all you have to do is just play the accent pattern with the quarter note triplet, something like this. Alright, with that being said, you guys, that's going to conclude everything for this video. Thank you guys for sticking all the way through if you have, and please subscribe, like I said, to watch more videos and more episodes like this. Now, this series in particular is supposed to help you guys go out and audition for your guys' own groups that you guys want to participate in. So I'm having a list of things that I want to go over in future videos, but I would love to have you guys' feedback. So if you guys want something to do, something in particular that you guys are struggling on for your guys' auditions, please let me know in the comments below. But if you guys want something in specific for me to go over in a future video, go ahead and leave a comment below. And yeah, like I said, that's gonna conclude everything for today, you guys. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and smash that like button, please. I will see you guys for the next one, and peace out.